This is A World Gone Mad. I'm Jeff Allen Wolf. Welcome to the Friday edition, the part of the week where later in my podcast, I bring you news from the edge of sanity. Try to bring you a little laughter before you head into your weekend. News from the edge of sanity, the segment where I share with you the stories that make you pause mid-coffee and say, what planet are we living on? But first, let's talk about the real news stories from the last 48 hours, which sometimes rival the bizarre ones. Okay, here we go. John Bolton, Mr. National Security, the man whose mustache has probably been on the CIA payroll since the Cold War, just indicted on 18 counts under the Espionage Act. 18 counts. This is not a case file. That is a Netflix series. This is the guy who spent decades barking at the rest of the world about classified information. Be careful with secrets, he said. Protect the homeland, Bolton said. And now the protector of the homeland is being charged for playing show and tell with the homeland secrets. You cannot make this stuff up unless you are drunk on power and irony. Bolton insists it is political payback, that he followed every rule before publishing his book. Maybe. Let's look at the timing. It smells like a vengeful pot roast. The moment Bolton turns on Trump, the legal hammer falls out of the sky like Wile E. Coyote's anvil. Remember when Trump got caught with boxes of classified documents in Mar-a-Lago, including some literally stored in the bathroom? That was the giant scandal. That was the moment everyone screamed witch hunt. And now the same crowd that called the system corrupt is cheering because the same system just indicted one of Trump's biggest critics. Congratulations, Hypocrisy. You finally won a medal. This is not justice. This is retribution, wearing a flag pin. When Trump was in the crosshairs, it was tyranny. When Bolton gets charged, it is patriotism. It's the same Espionage Act, the same law, the same government, just a new target on the dartboard. The only difference is who benefits. Bolton, of course, helped build this whole national security circus. He was the guy firing cannons from the stands. Now the cannon is pointed at him, and suddenly he wants fairness. Welcome to the party, John. The hors d'oeuvres are subpoenas. So yes, remember when that happened to Donald? Same script, new villain. The government is not draining the swamp. It is feeding on its own. They don't want accountability. They want a head on a stick to parade on Sunday shows. Bolton says he will fight it. Good. Let him. Put it on TV. Let America watch the hawk. Try to explain why the monster he helped create is now gnawing on his leg. Because if the Espionage Act has become the favorite toy of every political toddler in Washington, then no one is safe from the tantrum that comes next. Zelensky walks into the White House asking for Tomahawk missiles and clear support. Simple ask, long range, precision, the kind of thing that makes Russian headquarters high command pack a go bag. Meanwhile, Trump is out there winking at a second meeting with Vladimir Putin like it is couples therapy for tyrants. Budapest, maybe? Within weeks. Sure. Nothing says leverage like telling the other guy you might bring his enemy flowers later. Weapons diplomacy gets marketed as support. The label says strong. The fine print says maybe. Trump says he is considering Tomahawk missiles. Donald loves considering things. He talks about making decisions, but never actually makes them. The Washington Post asks if Tomahawks would change the battlefield in Ukraine. And the short answer is yes, if you actually send them and let Ukraine hit what matters. The longer answer is this White House is allergic to clear lines. Now zoom out. Trump is floating a Putin summit while Zelensky sits in the guest chair. That is not strategy. That is Trump playing both sides on live television. First you dangle real help, then you hint you might hand the steering wheel to the guy who invaded you. Reuters says the Kremlin is already talking through prep calls and warning against long-range weapons. Translation: Moscow wants the missiles shelved and the photo op booked. And we've been here before. Remember the Oval Office circus back in February? Trump and J.D. Vance barking at Zelensky like an Abbott and Costello reboot that devolved into Beavis and Butthead. Berated Zelensky over the war. Berated him over his clothing he wore. Cut the meeting short. That was the tone. That was the tell. If you forgot, the reporting spelled it out. So is this new visit support or a trap? If Trump says yes to Tomahawks today and then promises Putin a warm chat tomorrow, Ukraine gets strung along while Russia gets reassurance that Washington will keep one foot on the brake. ABC says Tomahawks are the focus. The Kremlin says a summit is coming. Those two facts do not live in the same house without a fight. Here's what this means for Congress and for policy. If you are serious about defending Ukraine, you send tools that change behavior. You do not tell the attacker you will be right with them after dessert. You do not ask the victim to smile while you text their mugger. You pick a lane. You make it public. You hold it. Trump creates more whiplash than a driver learning stick shift on a mountain road. Final thought for the Wolfpack. Zelensky came for clarity. He deserves a straight answer. Either give Ukraine the reach to hit the war machine or admit Donald's plan is vibes and photo ops. If the White House tries to ride both horses again, the one person who wins is sitting in the Kremlin polishing a victory speech. And as I'm recording this, the news came in. Trump said no to Tomahawk missiles. So what the hell is going on here? Trump is basically playing Zelensky again, kissing Putin's ass, pretending to do diplomacy as the only guy who can solve conflicts around the world. Trump is the worst, I won't say the word, but a waste of DNA. Has no clue what he's doing. He's the leader of the free world and he acts like a child sitting in the crib pretending he's trying to make the bully make nice with the quiet boy. So no Tomahawks for Zelensky. What a shock. Did anybody here listening think that would happen? Here we go again. Saturday was No Kings Protest Day. Now, most of you will probably hear this podcast after the protests have already happened. But I know a few of you are catching this episode late Friday night or early Saturday morning while getting ready to head out to the protest yourself. Either way, the message is the same. No kings, not now, not ever. What a concept, right? A protest to remind a supposedly free country that we do not kneel to monarchs, that we do not hand crowns to politicians, that democracy was not meant to be a reality show where one man decides who gets the rose and who gets deported. The absurdity is not in the protests. The absurdity is that we have to protest at all. Think about that for a second. In the United States of America, people have to go out in the streets to demand democracy, to defend the system that was supposed to defend them. That is where we are. And the same people who call themselves patriots are the ones yelling that these marches are un-American. You can't make this up. The founders literally started our country with a protest that said no kings. Remember, England, etc.? There was even talk of making George Washington a king. And George refused, saying that in America there should be no kings at all. The slogan was the birth certificate. Now, some of you will be or were out there this weekend, depending on when you're listening to my podcast. You saw the energy, you felt the anger and the hope mixing in the same crowd. Maybe it was messy, maybe it was beautiful, maybe both. The point is, it happened. Citizens showing up to say that power does not belong to one man, one party, or one movement that worships a leader instead of a constitution. And you know what will happen next? The same politicians who flirt with autocracy will act confused. They'll go on TV and say, "Why are these people so upset?" Here's the answer. Because we have watched the lines blur for years. Because we have seen what happens when the law bends for one man and breaks for everyone else. Because every time a leader floats the idea that maybe democracy is optional, people die somewhere down the line. And now, ahead of these marches, some Republican governors were already answering that question with force instead of reflection. In Texas, Governor Abbott had deployed the Texas National Guard and state troopers to Austin, saying it is to prevent violence. In Virginia, Governor Glenn Youngkin has placed the Virginia National Guard on standby in case of unrest. That says everything. People marching for democracy are going to be met, maybe, with soldiers. I want to be clear about something. I don't know the outcome of these protests because I'm recording this before they happen on Saturday. Hopefully they will be peaceful. Hopefully no one gets hurt. Hopefully this does not become the spark that divides this country even further. This is not an exaggeration. It is reality. We are at a breaking point. And all we are asking for is what America promised from the start. A democracy with no kings. We should be able to stand up, speak truth to power, and say that Donald, the delusional one, does not get a crown. He gets accountability. That's it. That's all this is. So whatever those crowds look like in your city, the point is they were there. They showed up. They said it out loud. No kings. The simplest, most American sentence in existence. And if that statement still needs to be shouted in 2025, then maybe the people marching are not the radicals. Maybe the radicals are the ones in suits pretending not to hear them. Don't forget to write to me, everyone. Let me know about your experience with Saturday's No Kings Protest Day. wolfpacktalks@gmail.com. Would be nice if a lot of you would share what you witnessed Saturday, and then I could share them with the listeners on an upcoming episode. Okay, let's switch gears from the serious to the bizarre. It's time for news from the edge of sanity. Story 1. The man who never saw it coming. In Vicenza, Italy, a 70-year-old man lived for 50 years with a serious disability. He was legally blind. Doctors confirmed it. The paperwork said it. The government checks arrived right on schedule. His condition was considered permanent. Blindness is hard enough to imagine. A life of trust, sound, and memory guiding every step. So when investigators decided to do a routine review earlier this year, no one expected much. Just a box to check, a form to sign, maybe a handshake on the way out. But when they visited the neighborhood where the 70-year-old blind man lived, they noticed something that did not quite fit the script. The man was walking with confidence. He strolled down the street, stopped at a market stall, counted his change. No hesitation, no cane. On another day, the 70-year-old blind man was spotted in his yard, trimming his hedges with impressive precision. Not exactly the behavior of someone navigating darkness. That is when the investigation turned into a jaw-dropper. Authorities now say the man could see perfectly well and had continued collecting benefits for half a century. They estimate he received more than 1 million euros over that time. When questioned, the 70-year-old blind man told investigators his eyesight had partially improved, and he forgot to mention it to anyone. 50 years of free money and a rosebush that finally gave him away. You almost want to hand this guy an Oscar before the lights fade on the longest performance in Italy. Story 2, the Bishop and the Wrong Send. In Peru, there once was a man of the cloth who rose through the ranks with quiet confidence. He preached about virtue. He guided his congregation. He wore the robes, delivered the sermons, and spoke about resisting temptation. The kind of figure people look to for wisdom when the world feels off its rails. But behind those sermons, something was stirring. Whispers began in the town of Julie. Late-night messages, expensive gifts being sent. The kind of generosity that seemed a little too personal. Still nothing concrete, nothing official, until one morning when a very unfortunate message went to the wrong person. The message came from the man at the center of those whispers, Bishop Ciro Quispe Lopez, a respected figure known for his calm voice and confident smile. The message contained photos from Bishop Lopez meant for one of his secret companions, but they landed in the hands of this man's housekeeper instead. She took them straight to church authorities. What came next reads like a script no one wanted to produce. Investigators uncovered reports of as many as 17, repeat, 17 secret relationships, all tied to Bishop Lopez himself. Turns out the bishop was spreading more than the gospel. Investigators say he used church funds to shower gifts on his lovers, and Rome finally said, enough. The Vatican accepted the bishop's resignation, which in church language means he is now free to spend more time reflecting and maybe changing his contact list. He preached about sin on Sunday, sent proof of it on Monday, and in the end, it was not the devil that got the bishop. It was his own lust sent to the wrong inbox. And that, Wolfpack listeners, are your news from the edge of sanity, proving once again that common sense took the early retirement package. All right, let's hear from you. I keep yelling it, I keep screaming it, I keep slamming my face into a brick wall. Email me, wolfpacktalks@gmail.com or 833-399-9653. I'm here. Where are you? Tell me your stories that happened to you on No Kings Protest Day, Saturday, so I can share them with the listeners. This is The World Gone Mad. I'm Jeff Allen Wolf. I will be back Monday. Until then, Wolfpack listeners, remain skeptical, keep focused, but most of all, stay hopeful.